Okay, we are now on module 4. Modules 1, 2, and 3 were in a unit called the number system. Okay, in the unit called the number system, unit 1, we learned about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. And then we learned about adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing rational numbers, which are fractions and decimals. In this unit, in unit 2, is called ratios and proportional relationships. And it's modules 4 and 5, and we're going to learn about ratios and proportional relationships. And the first module, module 4, is called rates and proportionality. Okay, so the first lesson in module 4, 4.1, is called finding unit rate. All right, so let's get started on these notes. A ratio. Okay, we've got some vocabulary words to start off with. Okay. We've got rate, unit rate, and complex fraction. We did complex fractions at the end of the first unit, at the end of module 3. But in module 4, we're going to use them again, okay? So a ratio is a comparison of two quantities that have different units. All right, here's what that means. For example, something like miles, that's a unit. Miles is a unit of measure, and hours, right? And when we compare miles to hours, a lot of times we call that miles per hour, like in a car. How many miles per hour can this car go? Or are you traveling, right? So this is two different units. Miles is a unit of measure, and hours is a unit of measure. So it's a way to measure something, right? Hours, we measure time. Miles, we measure distance, okay? Another example would be like dollars and pounds. Like sometimes when you go to the store, you buy something like, and it's like a certain amount per pound. So if you buy 10 pounds, it's going to cost a certain amount. If you only buy 1 pound, it's going to cost a certain amount. So dollars per pound, right? All right. So those are two different units. So a unit rate has a denominator of 1. Okay, unit rate has a denominator of 1. When the two quantities being compared are both fractions, the rate is written as a complex fraction, which means it has a fraction as a numerator and a fraction as a denominator. Okay, so we learned about complex fractions at the end of module 3, but we're going to use them again. Ratios look and act a lot like fractions. Okay, the difference is a fraction is part of a whole. You have a whole pizza or a whole candy bar or a whole class, and you break it into parts. Okay, like you break it into pieces, and the denominator is how many pieces you cut pizza into, and the numerator is how many pieces you have or how many pieces you ate. So it's part of the whole, and the top, the numerator, is the part, and the bottom is basically represents the whole, but it represents how many pieces you cut the whole into. Okay, a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Like you might have 8 boys and 12 girls. So the 8 and 12 are being compared in two different units or two different descriptions, boys and girls, two different things, right? You might have 60 miles in 3 hours, 60 compared to 3, but it's miles being compared to hours, okay? Now, the ratio is a comparison of two numbers, but they look and act a lot like fractions. So let's talk about finding unit rate. So this is an example. I am painting my kitchen, right? I'm still painting my kitchen. I'm not done yet. I estimate that I paint about 55 square feet every half hour. So what is my rate per hour, which is my unit rate? When it's per 1 hour, remember the denominator is 1 with the unit rate. Basically, this is asking what is my unit rate, my rate per 1 hour. Well, these are the steps right here. 4 steps. Number 1, we're going to start with the word ratio. Now, what does that mean? What I'm going to do is I'm going to find my units. What are the units that I'm comparing? Well, I am comparing square feet right there, to hours, right? Square feet to hours. So I'm going to write that. Square feet, and I'm going to abbreviate feet, compared to hours. Square feet per hour. All right. This per hour makes me know that the hour goes on bottom, is the denominator. Okay. So I'm going to then write my given ratio. That means what numbers were given to me in the problem. Okay. Well, I was given 55 square feet. So I'm going to put 55 on top because square feet goes on top. And then it says every half hour. So I'm going to put half on the bottom because hours goes on bottom. Okay. Next, I'm going to write the missing ratio. And that's what I'm looking for. This says, what is miss rate per hour? So I'm missing the square feet, but I know I want 1 hour. Per hour means 1 hour. Okay. So this is what's missing right here. So this is my missing ratio. This is my word ratio, square feet per hour. This is my given ratio, the rate they gave me in the problem. This is what's missing. Okay, this has my missing number. So then I'm going to solve for the missing ratio. How do I do that? To solve, I'm going to multiply the cross corners. The cross corners are the two corners where you have a number. These two corners have a number. This corner doesn't have a number. So I want to multiply the two numbers across from each other. Multiply, that x for multiply. Well, that's 55 times 1, right? 55 times 1 equals 55. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is divide by the third corner. So I'm going to, so the third corner is right here, right? This is the only number I have left that I haven't used because that corner doesn't have a number. So I'm going to divide by 1/2. 55 divided by 1/2. How do I do that? Well, when we're dividing fractions, we keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep 55. I'm going to change the division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the divisor. Okay? And to multiply fractions, I need both to have a numerator and a denominator. So now I can do 55 times 2, which is 110. 1 times 1, which is 1. And so the answer is 110 square feet per hour. Okay, so this is 110 square feet per 1 hour. Okay, so the answer is my unit rate when I paint is 110 square feet per hour. Okay, and that is how we find the unit rate. Now, one of the most useful things about finding unit rate is being able to compare and seeing who's faster, what's better. When you find the unit rate, you can make a direct comparison. So let's do that in the next problem, okay? So this is a very useful skill actually in real life. So let's say you're looking for a cell phone plan, okay? And you've got two companies. One's called On-Call Cell Phone, and the other's called Talk Time Cell Phones, okay? So we want to see which is the better deal. All right, one of them charges $10 for 3.5 hours of calls. The other one is $1.25 for a half hour of calls. The question is, which one of those is a better deal? It's hard to tell, right? So if we find the unit rate though, what's the cost per hour for each plan, then we can do a direct comparison. All right, so let's do that. We're going to start with on-call and find the unit rate for on-call, okay? And I'm going to follow the steps. I'm going to first write the word ratio. What am I comparing? I'm comparing dollars per hour, okay? So dollars per hour. That is my word ratio. I'm going to start with that. The next step is to write my given ratio. For on call, I have $10 for 3.5 hours. So I'm going to put the 10 on top because that's where the dollars go. And I'm going to put the hours on bottom, 3.5, because that's where the hours go. So word ratio, given ratio. Last, I'm going to write the missing ratio. So I want to know how much money, right here, how much money per hour, okay? So that's the missing number right there. How much money per 1 hour? So now I can solve, right? I know how to solve this. I can multiply these two numbers and then divide by this one, okay? So I'm going to do 10 times 1, which is 10, and then I'm going to divide by 3.5. Now, in this lesson, you can use your calculator, okay? You can pull up the calculator on your computer. You can pull up the calculator on your phone. I don't care which one you use. You're allowed to use calculators now. This is our first unit where we're allowed to use calculators. So I'm going to do 10 here divided by 3.5. And I get this huge long number, right? 2.8571 and so on. So, but remember, this is money that we're dealing with. We want to know how much money per hour. And dollars and cents, this is $2.85, but look at this 7. Because this place value is greater than 4, meaning this spot right here is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right? It's 7. I'm going to make this number a 6. I'm going to round up. Okay, so this is $2.86 per 1 hour. Okay, $2.86 per 1 hour for on call. Now I'm going to do talk time. And I'm going to do the same thing, word ratio. And then I'm going to do given ratio. The given ratio for talk time is $1.25 per half hour. And I'm going to make that into a decimal instead of a fraction. Okay, a half in decimal is 0.5. Now I can set up my missing ratio, right? So I can multiply across, and you're probably thinking, why is she doing that when everybody knows when you multiply a number times 1, it's you just get that number. So why is she bothering to write 125 times 1? And you might be thinking, I'm not going to do that. And fair enough, you don't necessarily have to do it if you already know that. However, sometimes you're going to do something different here, right? It's not always going to be unit rate. This is unit rate, which means you have a denominator of 1. So for this module, we're finding unit rate, but that's not always going to be the case. You're going to sometimes be asking, if it costs $1.25 for half hour, how much is it going to cost if you talk for 10 hours or 29 hours? Or so sometimes it's going to be different here. So that's why I'm showing you how to do it, the whole process. All right. So now that we've multiplied the corners, we're going to divide by the third number, right? Divide by the third number. So I'm going to divide by 0.5. So again, I can use my calculator, okay? I'm going to put in 1.25 and divide by 0.5, and I get 2.5. Remember, this is money. We're talking about dollars per hour. So this is actually $2.50 per hour. So now we can compare. Now we have a direct comparison. $2.86 per hour or $2.50 per hour. Which one is the better deal? Which would you rather pay? Well, I'd rather pay $2.50. That's cheaper, right? So we can say the answer is talk time is the better deal, is a better deal. Okay, and this is actually why ratios, proportions, percents, basically we're on the unit called ratios and proportional relationships. This is a very useful real life skill to be able to find unit rates and make good comparisons so you make good decisions when you buy things. All right, so that is 4.1. You have some practice to do. And so go on to your practice problems.